What up, crew? Today I'm going to read to you about the artist Yayoi Kusama, who is from Japan, and the story is called From Here to Infinity because infinity is something that she deals with in her work a lot. And infinity, think of to infinity and beyond. It's endless. It's limitless. You can't measure it. It goes on forever and ever and ever without stopping. And that's something that she loved to incorporate into her work, and she did that with rhythm and dots. So we're going to read her story here and learn more about her life. A very famous artist from Japan. Yayoi Kusama was born in the country of Japan on the island of Honshu in a town called Matsumoto City. An old palace made of wood and stone overlooked a moat where swans swam, the streets were lined with little shops, and snow-capped mountains rose in the distance, swallowing up the sun as it went down in the evening. So you can see the snow-capped mountains, the palace, some cherry blossoms, a symbol of Japan, and then there's the swan swimming in the moat. And there she is. Yayoi's family owned nurseries where all kinds of flowers and vegetables grew, and workers tended the plants as they matured from seeds to sprouts to stalks. But Yayoi learned for a different life. Far from the countryside, she dreamed about what lay beyond the mountains in places far from Matsumoto City. She longed to leave home and see the world. And there she is drawing some of the vegetables and plants. See pumpkins and flowers. Also themes in her work. Yayoi's mother wanted her to stay home and learn old-fashioned manners, how to dress elegantly, eat politely, and find a proper husband. But Yayoi wanted to be an artist. Every day she went outside with ink and brushes and paper. She drew things she saw and things she imagined in her head. She looked closely at the pebbles that lined the riverbed and at the leaves and stalks of plants, and she drew them as chains of tiny cells that looked like dots. When she was older and studying in art school, her teachers disapproved of her work, and they demanded that Yayoi paint in the traditional, precise Japanese style. But she wanted to go where she could work without those rules. When she was 28 years old, she packed up her silk kimonos and thousands of drawings and stuffed dollar bills into the toes of her shoes. It was her first airplane trip. There were only 4 other passengers, and the weather was stormy with rain and lightning. The airplane wobbled and dipped as it flew to America. Kind of scary. In New York City, Yayoi went to the top of the Empire State Building, the tallest building in a city full of tall buildings, and when she looked down, she saw buses and cars and yellow taxis zooming up and down the avenues, and bankers and teachers and artists rushing to work. From up on the 86th floor, they looked like little dots. She felt very far from the quiet Matsumoto City in Japan, and she felt far away from her mother's rules. Here it seemed anything was possible. The opportunities were endless. Think infinity. Yayoi set about turning her drawings of dots into paintings. The dollar bills that she had brought to America quickly ran out, and she spent what little money she had left on paints and canvases. She worked day and night. She painted when she was cold, she painted when she was hungry, she painted when she was lonely, and she turned her dots into sculptures too, maybe a soft, stuffed tube that covered sofas and chairs and boats. She was devoted to her dots. For her, they were a way of thinking about the world. A world among the stars as one dot among millions of others. They were a way of thinking about infinity. Sometimes when she grew frustrated, she visited the Museum of Modern Art. She gazed at paintings by other artists. Look, there's Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, René Magritte, Matisse, Rousseau, Mondrian. She looked at pictures of dancing girls, swirling night skies, trying to solve them as if they were puzzles. Her paintings seemed so different from those that she had seen at the museum. When she at last was ready to show her work in public, she invited all the friends she had made in New York. When she arrived at the gallery, a crowd was spilling out into the sidewalk. Her friends lifted her to the air, shouting, "Yayoi, you've finally done it." Word about her artwork spread quickly. Her friends told their friends, newspapers wrote about her work, and reporters clamored to interview her about the dots. Now she began to show them in other cities all over the United States and Europe. Her dots were covering the entire world. They appeared in Venice in thousands of dot-shaped mirrors scattered over a big green lawn. So mirrors reflected the light and what they saw, so dots kind of representing infinity. She even painted dots on a giant pumpkin sculpture on a pier. That's a big pumpkin. On dresses and t-shirts, on people walking down the street, in mirrored rooms where glowing dots were reflected and reflected again in an infinity of dots. So she's influencing the entire world with her amazing idea of infinity and dots and rhythm. So here's like an illustrated infinity room. So all the mirrors make it look like there's a foreground, background, middle ground Yayoi Kusama. Dots of all different sizes. So it's the same shape, the circle, the dot, but since it's different sizes and different colors, that creates rhythm, a principle of design that Yayoi loves. Having visited many countries all over the world, Yayoi returned to Japan. The country had changed since she had first left, with many different artists challenging the old traditional style, just as Yayoi had been doing all along. And look, even her dog has spots. Can you guess her favorite color? Rojo red. She still lives in Japan, and she continues to paint her dots every day. And here's some of the real artworks of Yayoi Kusama. So she did paintings. There's that like sculpted sofa she made, so it's like soft dots, infinity. Here's an infinity mirrored room, so she has all sorts of different lights, different sizes, different colors, creates rhythm. But then all the mirrors in there make it look like you're in a galaxy and that it goes on forever and ever. So there's mirrors on the floor, on the walls, on the ceiling. It's incredible. And then here's her Obliteration Room. So she had a perfectly white studio apartment style, and then people covered it with all different sizes and colors of dots in any way they wanted, and it looks like an explosion of dots that are immeasurable, limitless. You couldn't count them all if you tried. And there's a portrait of her, so it's she's kind of camouflaged in with this sculpture she made in another infinity room. It looks like the dots go on forever and ever, and her artwork will go on forever and ever for infinity. So, famous artist Yayoi Kusama from Japan, loves rhythm, loves dots, kind of a pioneer and game changer in the art world. So hopefully you're inspired by her work to create something unusual and rhythmic. Adios, amigos.